Somewhere in northern Oregon, there is a road that doesn't appear on any map. And at the end of that road, an inn has been waiting since 1908. Travelers find it by accident, always during storms, always when they have nowhere else to go. The locals only say one thing about it. This is the story of the ones who didn't. Black Ridge Inn still operates today along a forgotten mountain road in northern Oregon, 40 miles from the nearest highway. Travelers don't usually plan to stay there. They find it by accident. The building was constructed in 1908 for railroad workers crossing dense pine valleys, long before the surrounding towns quietly disappeared. Even now, reservations are accepted, but locals rarely stay there. Truck drivers mention it softly at roadside diners, always followed by the same warning: leave before midnight. Late October, storm season beginning. A couple traveling north toward Washington lost signal on their navigation system while crossing the mountains after sunset. Rain fell hard enough to erase the road. Fog rolled across the asphalt like smoke. The nearest motel vanished from their GPS, replaced by a narrow side road neither of them remembered seeing. Fuel running low, visibility collapsing. They turned onto it. 10 silent minutes passed. Forest on both sides, no houses, no lights, until finally a faint yellow glow appeared between the trees. Black Ridge Inn, 3 stories tall, wood darkened by decades of rain and cold winters, several windows glowing softly, most completely black. A flickering neon sign buzzed near the entrance. Vacancy. The place looked occupied, yet completely still. No cars moving, no voices, only wind pushing against loose shutters. When they stepped outside, Ian Ferry for Mar can feel colder than the surrounding mountains. In damp, like old basements, wet soil inside. The lobby felt frozen in another era. Brass keys hanging behind the counter, faded photographs lining the walls, an antique clock ticking loudly in the silence. Almost too loudly. After nearly a full minute, an elderly woman appeared from the hallway behind the desk, as if she had been standing there the entire time, watching. She greeted them politely, avoided eye contact, prepared a room key, then paused and calmly said, "Guests sometimes hear movement at night. The building settles." The sentence felt rehearsed, automatic. Room 314, 3rd floor, end of the corridor, several ceiling lights no longer working. Carpet absorbing footsteps completely. Halfway down the hall, they noticed something strange. Several doors had their numbers removed. Only darker outlines remained. Room 314 was freshly painted. Inside, the room looked ordinary. Large bed, old furniture, heavy curtains blocking the forest outside, but the temperature felt uneven, cold pockets drifting through the air. The bathroom mirror carried faint streaks, as if someone had wiped condensation away recently. Midnight. The first sound came. A slow, dragging noise moving across the ceiling. Step, drag, pacing directly over the bed. The inn had no 4th floor. The movement continued for 5 minutes. Then stopped. Directly overhead. Silence. Then 3 knocks. Not from the door. From inside the wall beside the bed, the hallway outside was empty, dust resting thick on unused door handles. Returning inside, something had changed. The bathroom light was on. Neither remembered turning it on. The mirror had fogged completely, and written across the glass 2 words, "Still occupied." The temperature dropped sharply, breath visible in the air. The building groaned somewhere deep below. At 3:12 a.m., the corridor exploded with running footsteps. Dozens of them. A loud slam. Then total silence. Morning came too fast. As if the night skipped forward. The desk woman calmly informed them travel would be unsafe until evening. They would need to stay. Another night. While leaving the lobby, one detail finally stood out. Every photograph on the wall showed former guests, several standing in front of room 314, none smiling. One photo from the 1970s, a couple, smiling, standing exactly where they had slept. Underneath, checked in, October 18th, departure. The departure date never filled in, and somewhere above the ceiling, something began moving again. Batch 2. The building wakes. The second day passed under a growing certainty. Something was wrong. The storm never fully stopped. Fog made the forest look painted. No vehicles arrived. No one left. The inn felt occupied, but empty. Peeling wallpaper revealed deep scratches carved into the wood. Dozens of them. Desperate, horizontal, like fingernails dragged repeatedly. Between the marks, names, dates, and beside several, left, never completed. Hallway mirrors reflected slightly darker than reality, as if delayed, until one reflection didn't move at all. A tall figure stood behind them. Inside the mirror, when they turned, nothing. But in the glass, it remained, watching. That night, the dragging returned, louder, closer. Calling the front desk connected instantly, but instead of the woman's voice, breathing, slow, uneven, then a whisper. "You're in the wrong room." The line died. At 11 p.m., knocking spread through the hallway, door after door. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Then screaming erupted upstairs. Firelight flickered in the window. Smoke filled the room. But the hallway was empty. No fire, no guests, only dim humming lights. And the hallway layout had changed. Numbers skipping, corridors longer, rooms rearranged, the building itself shifting from somewhere nearby. Dragging footsteps approached again, only this time, not above the ceiling, inside the hallway, moving toward them. Step, drag, and they realized something worse than ghosts. Blackridge Inn wasn't haunted. It was keeping people. Batch 3, the ones who stayed at 2:40 a.m., the power returned. The room looked older, decades older. Outside, the parking lot was full. Cars from different decades, abandoned. One door slowly creaked open. No one stepped out. Voices filled the hallway. Guests rushing, different eras, different clothes, all moving toward the staircase, then disappearing mid-step, swallowed, not fading, simply erased. From beneath the floor, voices began begging, scratching upward. The building wasn't trapping spirits, it was collecting people alive. The elderly woman stood in the hallway, fear in her eyes. "You shouldn't have gone upstairs yesterday." Shadows pressed outward beneath the wallpaper, hands pushing through, then sinking back. The floor trembled. Footsteps descended from impossible ceilings. She stepped aside. "Go!" Before it notices, they ran. The lobby doors burst open. The storm was gone. The road clear. They drove until sunrise, relief settling in, until one detail ruined it, because when the sun rose fully, their GPS displayed only one location nearby. Blackridge Inn checked in, October 18th, no departure date, and behind them, in the rearview mirror, far back, along the mountain road, a faint yellow light flickered, waiting. The fuel gauge had not moved, not even slightly. The trip odometer showed no recorded distance from the inn, as if they had never left. And resting quietly in the center console was the brass room key. 3, 1, 4. Neither of them remembered bringing it. Weeks passed. They try not to talk about it, try not to think about it, until one night, while unpacking luggage that had remained untouched since the trip, the smell returned. Damp wood, wet soil. Oh, there. Inside one suitcase, they found a folded brochure. Blackridge Inn, still operating, still accepting guests. Printed at the bottom, storm season reservations recommended, extended stays available. And beneath that, in small text, a list of current long-term guests. Among dozens of unfamiliar names were theirs. Check-in date recorded correctly. Departure status left blank. And sometimes, just after midnight, faint footsteps can be heard moving slowly across their ceiling. Step, drag, as if something is still searching for the room they almost never left. Because Blackridge Inn remains open, and during heavy storms, travelers still find it waiting. The winter maintenance incident Blackridge Inn does not close during winter, but every January, the mountain road becomes nearly impossible to cross. In 2019, a maintenance contractor named Daniel Reeves accepted a short-term job there. For nights, unusually high pay, simple instructions: inspect the boiler, remain overnight, report structural noises. The listing never mentioned the inn's history. Daniel arrived just before sunset, snow falling heavily across the pass. No nearby homes, no headlights, only forest. The parking lot held 2 vehicles, half buried in snowdrifts, neither recently driven. Inside, the lobby looked identical to old online photos. Unchanged, untouched, the same brass keys, the same ticking clock, the same dim lighting. The woman at the desk greeted him, relieved, not welcoming. "You'll hear movement at night," she said calmly. "The heating pipes run through old sections." Daniel smiled, assumed it was normal. 1:07 a.m. A metallic bang echoed from below the floor. Daniel grabbed his flashlight. The basement door was already open. Cold air poured upward, the smell of damp earth. Rust. Halfway down the stairs, scratch marks lined the concrete walls. Layered, old beneath new, all running upward, for the exit, as if people had tried climbing out. In the boiler room, everything appeared normal. Gauges steady, pipes warm, until footsteps began overhead. 1 pair, then 2, then many. Heavy boots crossing the lobby floor. Suitcases rolling, voices murmuring faintly. Daniel checked the time. 1:19 a.m. There were no guests scheduled. Then, a violent slam struck the basement door upstairs. Shouting, multiple voices. "Open it." The lobby above went silent instantly. Daniel rushed back up. Empty, lights steady, snow outside untouched. No footprints. The old elevator activated by itself. Indicator rising. First floor, second, third, then past it. The display flickered. 4. There was no 4th floor. The elevator doors opened somewhere above the ceiling. Footsteps entered. Multiple. Breathing. Whispers. The doors closed. Descending. The elevator stopped in front of him. Opened slowly. Empty. But the floor was wet, covered in melted snow, as if travelers had just stepped inside. Behind him, the lobby clock stopped ticking, and somewhere deep in the building came a collective exhale. Dozens of voices breathing out together. After 3 a.m., the inn began changing. Temperature dropped rapidly. Frost spread across the desk. Hallway lights shut off one by one. Darkness swallowing everything. From upstairs, running, doors slamming, screams. "We're still down here. Please." The voices cut off. A deep vibration rolled beneath the floor. Then scratching. Thousands of scratches. Moving upward. The basement door burst open. Cold air and decay flooding the lobby. Daniel shined his flashlight downward and saw them. Dozens of figures, standing shoulder to shoulder in darkness. Clothing from different decades. Faces pale. Mouths open mid-scream. Then they began climbing, not using stairs. Their hands pressed through the walls. Bodies forcing upward through wood and concrete, like shadows pushing through fabric. Daniel ran. The corridors stretched endlessly. Rooms filled with travelers packing bags. Families knocking on windows that opened only into darkness. They repeated movements like recordings, trapped in loops. Ahead, the elevator opened again. Inside stood the elderly desk clerk, her eyes hollow. "You stayed past inspection hours," she whispered. "Now it thinks you checked in." Behind him, dragging footsteps approached rapidly. Heavier. Closer. Wood splitting under pressure. The lights died. Completely. Daniel's final maintenance log ended mid-sentence. The building isn't haunted. It's filling up during storms. Every winter it adds more rooms somehow. I can hear them behind the walls. They're still arriving. Daniel Reeves never returned home. But during heavy snowfall, truck drivers sometimes report seeing a maintenance worker standing in Blackridge Inn's 3rd-floor window, shining a flashlight outward, as if trying to warn approaching travelers to turn back. Most never notice him, because the vacancy sign is already glowing, and Blackridge Inn still has rooms available. That sentence appeared again 3 months later, posted on a regional travel forum by a driver passing through northern Oregon during another winter storm. The post itself was short, almost careless. He described a roadside inn, that had unexpectedly saved him from freezing conditions after his truck stalled along a mountain road. What drew attention wasn't the recommendation. It was the photograph attached beneath it. Behind the glowing vacancy sign stood a tall figure near one of the third-floor windows, holding the flashlight. Search teams later confirmed something disturbing. The image timestamp matched a night when heavy snowfall had completely closed the mountain pass. No active businesses were supposed to be operating anywhere in that region. According to county records, electrical service to that section of forest had already been cut days earlier after fallen power lines. Yet, the building lights were clearly on. The driver who uploaded the post deleted his account less than 12 hours later. Attempts to contact him failed. His trucking company later reported his vehicle was discovered abandoned 30 miles north. He's still inside the ignition, the heater still running. Inside the cab, investigators found a folded brochure. Blackridge Inn, winter maintenance notice. Authorities eventually sent 2 deputies to inspect the property after multiple stranded drivers reported seeing lights deep within the forest. Their dash camera recorded the final confirmed approach shortly before midnight. Snow completely covered the access road, yet tire tracks appeared ahead of them, dozens overlapping each other, fresh and old at the same time, leading toward a clearing. The building emerged slowly through falling snow, exactly as travelers had described. Warm lights glowing, smoke rising from the chimney, the vacancy sign humming softly despite the confirmed regional blackout. One deputy noted something unsettling before exiting the vehicle. There were far too many footprints in the snow, hundreds of them circling the inn, but none led away. Inside, the lobby appeared active. Suitcases rested beside chairs. Wet footprints crossed the wooden floor as if guests had only moments earlier entered seeking shelter. An antique clock ticked loudly. Later records showed it had stopped functioning decades ago. The deputies called out. Once, then again. No answer came. Then, the elevator activated upstairs. Both officers watched the floor indicator descend slowly. 4, 3, 2, 1. The doors opened. Cold air poured out first. Then voices. Not echoes. Conversations. Overlapping quietly inside the empty elevator car. Audio analysis later identified multiple individuals speaking at once, asking for directions, requesting rooms, complaining about weather delays. But no one stood inside. The elevator floor was soaked with melting snow. Then the lights flickered, and every guest room door along the hallway opened at once. The sound was unmistakable, dozens of locks releasing together. From inside the rooms came movement, beds shifting, footsteps touching carpet, luggage wheels rolling slowly toward the corridor. One deputy whispered something investigators never released publicly, because both officers suddenly turned at the exact same moment, staring down the far hallway. Someone was walking toward them. Heavy boots. Step, drag, step, drag. The footage shakes violently as the camera wearer backs away. Rapid breathing fills the recording. Then a voice speaks, very close to the microphone. Calm, tired, almost apologetic. You shouldn't arrive during storms. Seconds later, both cameras lose power. The patrol vehicle was discovered 2 days afterward, still parked outside Blackridge Inn. Engine frozen. Emergency lights buried beneath snow. Both deputies were missing. Search teams returned the following week in daylight. Blackridge Inn was gone. The clearing stood empty. No foundation, no road damage. Only untouched forest where the structure supposedly stood. But investigators documented one final detail. Pressed deep into the snow were fresh footprints. Hundreds of them, forming a straight line leading into the trees, all moving in the same direction, as if travelers were still arriving. Even now, long-haul drivers crossing northern Oregon occasionally report losing GPS signal during winter storms. Some describe seeing warm lights through dense fog, an old wooden inn waiting at the end of a road that does not exist on any modern map. Those who stop remember only fragments afterward. A quiet lobby, a woman at the desk, relief from the cold. But later, at home, some discover something strange inside their belongings. A brass key, cold to the touch, stamped with a room number. That officially does not exist. And sometimes, late at night, when storms roll in and wind presses against the walls, they hear footsteps somewhere above them. Step, drag, step, drag, as if Blackridge Inn is still expanding, still adding rooms, still checking people in. And somewhere deep inside the forest, beyond roads that should never exist, the vacancy sign continues glowing through the snow, waiting for the next guest, who simply needs a place to stay for the night. Pine Hollow Lodge sits along Highway 26 in eastern Colorado, several miles away from the nearest town. Travelers still claim to stop there today because it appears at exactly the right moment, usually late at night, usually when the weather turns bad, and usually when drivers are too exhausted to continue. The lodge itself isn't famous. It doesn't appear in travel guides or vacation listings. Most people who stay there mention it only briefly afterward. Old but comfortable, quiet but welcoming. What unsettles people later is how difficult it becomes to prove the place exists at all. February 2022. A medical supply driver named Aaron Keller was crossing the state overnight during a freezing rainstorm. Visibility collapsed without warning. Ice formed across the highway faster than road crews could respond. Around midnight, after nearly 10 straight hours of driving, Aaron noticed a wooden roadside sign, illuminated by a single hanging light. Pine Hollow Lodge. Vacancy. The building stood slightly below road level, surrounded by tall dead trees blocking most of the wind. Warm yellow light shone through the windows. Smoke rose calmly from a stone chimney. After hours of empty highway, the sight felt like relief. Inside, the lobby smelled of burning firewood and old carpet. A man behind the counter greeted him politely, almost too calmly, as if late arrivals were expected. Only one detail felt strange. The registration book already sat open, Aaron's name written neatly on the next line. Assuming coincidence, he signed anyway. Room 12. The hallway leading there felt longer than it should have been. Every door remained closed, yet faint sounds moved through the walls. Television static, quiet conversations, footsteps pacing slowly back and forth. None of it sounded recent. The noises felt distant, muted by time itself. Inside the room, everything appeared normal, except the mirror above the dresser. Its surface remained slightly fogged despite dry air. Faint streaks crossed the glass. Handprints wiped away again and again. Aaron fell asleep almost immediately. At exactly 2:17 a.m., he woke to knocking. 3 slow taps. At first, he assumed another guest. Then it came again, from inside the closet. The sound wasn't aggressive, just patient. When he opened the door, nothing stood inside, only neatly hanging blankets. But the air inside felt freezing. His breath formed clouds, and behind the coats, scratch marks covered the wall. Hundreds of them, layered over each other. Words carved repeatedly into the paint, most unreadable, except one sentence written again and again. Not morning yet. The lights flickered. Footsteps suddenly rushed through the hallway outside. Dozens of people moving, doors opening, voices speaking in confusion. Aaron opened his door. The hallway was empty, but every room door now stood open. Inside each room, luggage rested on beds. Televisions played silent static. One room contained half-eaten food, still warm. And at the far end of the corridor stood a woman, facing away from him, perfectly still. She turned her head slowly, without moving her body. Her face looked tired, not frightened. "You heard the knocking," she said quietly. "That means it knows you woke up." Every light shut off at once. Something moved above the ceiling. Not walking, crawling. The sound rushed toward room 12. Doors slammed shut behind him, one after another, until only his room remained open. Aaron ran toward the lobby stairs, but the staircase no longer led down. It continued upward into darkness. Behind him, the crawling reached the hallway floor. Fingers appeared first, long pale hands pulling forward, forcing themselves upward from beneath the carpet. The floor stretched as something pushed through the building itself. Guests appeared around him, dozens, standing silently in doorways, watching, none trying to leave. A clock somewhere below struck 3 loud chimes. Every head turned toward Aaron at once. The desk clerk stood at the end of the hall, calm, smiling faintly. "Most people sleep through it," he said. "You weren't supposed to wake up." Aaron ran outside moments later, slipping across ice toward his truck. The lodge lights shut off behind him. He drove until sunrise, without stopping. Later, something impossible appeared. His driving log showed a 6-hour gap. Highway cameras never recorded him leaving the road, and Pine Hollow Lodge does not exist anywhere along Highway 26. Months later, while cleaning his truck, Aaron found something beneath the passenger seat, a brass key, room 12, and sometimes during long overnight drives, he still hears knocking, free slow taps, waiting. Part 2. Final incident report. Aaron tried convincing himself the lodge had only been exhaustion, but sleep became difficult. Every night, at exactly 2:17 a.m., he woke suddenly. Then came the sound again, three soft knocks, somewhere inside the truck cabin. Each night, the knocking came from a different place, as if something inside was learning where he would look. Soon frost appeared inside the windshield, finger-shaped streaks forming across the glass. One morning, letters appeared beneath his hand. Not morning yet. Aaron sold the truck 2 days later. The knocking followed him home. It began inside his apartment closet. Mirrors fogged, lights burned out, reflections sometimes moved, half a second too late. Then came the storm. Power outages covered the county. Around midnight, headlights appeared outside his apartment. Cars lined the street. Old vehicles, snow-covered, engines idling quietly. Across the street, the building appeared, not fully formed. Pieces emerging through snowfall. Wooden walls replacing houses. Warm yellow windows glowing. Pine Hollow Lodge had followed him. Travelers stepped from their cars calmly, carrying bags, relieved, walking toward an entrance forming in the storm. Then, 3 knocks behind him. From the closet, the door opened slowly. Cold air filled the apartment. Beyond the clothes, a hotel hallway stretched impossibly deep. Room doors on both sides. And waiting at the far end, the desk clerk. "You checked in," he said gently. Storm delays happen. Wet footprints crossed the apartment floor. Guests entering quietly behind Aaron. Walking toward the hallway, Aaron ran. Neighbors later reported hearing his door slam after 3 a.m. Police found the apartment empty the next day. No struggle, nothing packed. Only one detail disturbed investigators. The bedroom closet appeared deeper than building plans allowed. Scratch marks covered the back wall. And on the floor, a torn guest registry page. At the bottom of the list, a new entry. Aaron Keller, room 12. Status: extended stay. Even now, drivers crossing Colorado during heavy storms sometimes report seeing Pine Hollow Lodge. Different roads, different locations, but always the same warm lights. Waiting. Most travelers leave before morning. A few don't. And sometimes, at exactly 2:17 a.m., people wake suddenly, hearing knocking nearby. Free slow taps. Patient. Waiting. Because at Pine Hollow Lodge, morning doesn't always come.